I know.
Going on safari is easily one of the most popular pastimes or travel activities out there, and it's easy to see why it can be so much fun.
Hey.
You go into the wild, you enjoy the presence of animals, and you pretty much become one with nature. But as you can imagine, this isn't always the case. Even in the most serene and controlled of environments, it's worth remembering that you're dealing with a wild animal. And there's a reason they're called wild. They can literally decide to flip the switch on a dime and go berserker mode or something. In this video, we'll have a look at 30 instances when African safari trips went completely wrong. Maybe you'll want to keep these instances in mind the next time that you go into the wild. Leopard speed check. Whenever you're in the wild, one thing you don't want to do is get on the bad side of a big cat. Just ask the film crew in this clip. Working for the BBC and covering a natural reserve in Botswana, the film crew found something rather interesting as they looked to observe a pack of wild dogs.
There's a doggy footprint there.
What Richard didn't know, however, was that while he was observing the hyenas, there was something hiding in the grass. This male leopard eventually climbed on top of the tree to get away from the wild dogs, but just as the camera crew thought it was all over, the big cat suddenly went and did this.
Okay.
Fortunately, Richard was able to get into his car and then scare the leopard, and with their window closed, the crew immediately got to move on before the big cat could have any more fun with them. Elephant Charge. As the largest land animal in the world, the elephant is easily amongst the animals that need to be feared the most. And while you might not think that they can be stealthy, there are some elephants that definitely change the narrative. In this video, we see a group of tourists being led by a park ranger on an African safari experience that suddenly got surprised by what appeared to be a charging elephant. Despite the fact the ranger seemed rather confident and bold, the elephant was still looking to get a piece of him, and as you can imagine, this would lead to a pretty tense standoff between man and beast. Fortunately for everyone in the situation, the park ranger was experienced enough to hold his ground and make sure that the elephant didn't have a way across. And after the standoff, the elephant then turned back. Now, you see the smile on the ranger's face? That's a man who knows that he's done a good job. Get off my yard. At the Fairy Glen Safari Park near Cape Town, these tourists got the scare of their lives when a rhino charged at their car after they had wandered a bit too deep into its territory. I'm guessing the rhino heard the truck sound and thought it was a competitor or something. The big guy got heated there in a moment's notice. Messing with the king. Lions are often referred to as the king of the jungle, and to be honest, it's a reputation that has been well earned over the years. At no point should you mess with these guys, even if you think you have the safety of a car. Just take a look at this situation. These people were on a safari trip, and they appeared to have gotten a little too close to a lion's den. Well, this king of the jungle didn't take too kindly to this, with his territory being encroached upon, and he made sure to give them a piece of his mind. Back it up. Elephants can be really interesting creatures. They generally don't pass for the most aggressive animals in the world, but they sure can pack a punch or two when the time comes to strut their stuff. Take this scenario for instance. These guys were on a safari trip when they came in contact with a young bull elephant. And while you would think the elephant would give way for them, the guy simply began charging straight at their car. Something tells me he was not in the mood for any chit-chat. Fortunately, the driver of the vehicle was able to ensure that everyone was fine. Hippo Charge. Whenever you think about the fastest land animals in the world, your mind probably puts up some names immediately. Cheetahs, horses, lions, and the like. But what if I told you that hippos can also turn on the jets when they need to? In this clip, we see a moment when a group of tourists on safari apparently came to a hippo's lair. The animal was at a relatively safe distance, so I'm guessing they felt pretty comfortable being around it. But what they didn't know was that it was all a setup. Once the hippo had gotten to a comfortable place, it suddenly does this. You might not know this, but hippos can hit speeds of up to 30 miles per hour. So maybe keep that in mind the next time you're on a safari trip. Leopard takes a snip. If there is one class of animals that you should really never mess with when you're on safari, it is a big cat. I really don't care how safe that you think you are. They can literally turn the tables on you in a flash. In this next incident, we see a moment when a couple of tourists at South Africa's Kruger National Park apparently got a little too close to a leopard as they were driving through. And let's just say things did not go exactly as planned. To make things even worse, the leopard continued charging at the vehicle even after it had lost contact. And something tells me the guy got a little taste and just couldn't let it go. According to reports, the leopard was eventually taken off the park and euthanized, while the man it attacked was taken to the hospital to have surgery. After a few weeks in the ICU, he was then good to go. Let that cat in. These days, scientists have repeatedly revealed to us that animals are much smarter than we give them credit for, but to be honest, there's an argument to be made that even we don't understand just how smart they can get. In this next scenario, we see a moment when a group of tourists thought it would be a good idea to park their car beside a group of relaxing lions. Everything was all good until one of the lions got a bit too curious and decided to pay the people a visit.
I know.
So, you were just going into the lair of untamed lions and didn't think to lock your doors? Are you kidding me? It could have gone south in the worst of ways. Turning on a dime. When it comes to most wild animals, there's one thing you need to know. They can be incredibly unpredictable. One moment you think an animal's going to pass through and not bother you, and the next, the animal suddenly turns and begins to wreak all manner of havoc. This group of tourists got a perfect dose of such unpredictability when they were checking out an elephant exhibit on safari. One of the elephants at the location suddenly decided to get a little too close, and initially, it seemed like it was just going to pass through without any trouble. But all of a sudden, that elephant decided to turn out of the blue and give the watch party a little show of its strength.
Hey, stop that!
Fortunately for the tourists, their driver was quick enough to start the engines and get out of there before the elephant got even more berserk. Wild lion chase. One of the factors that makes lions such great hunters is their stealth. Just when you think you're safe and can continue riding along a national park, a lion could literally pop up out of nowhere. This next clip shows a perfect example of that. A group of tourists moving along a national park in Zimbabwe suddenly got the chills after they found a lion that had apparently been tailing them for quite a while. The moment they saw the lion, you kind of get the sense that this is about to be an interesting experience, and let me tell you, it absolutely was. This lion put up a crazy chase and it wouldn't let go.
Yes, go, he's slowing down.
Of course, even though the big cat was fast, it couldn't catch up to the car. Still though, it was a good thing the tourists saw it quickly enough. Elephant pack. What's even more dangerous than one elephant? Well, a pack of elephants, it would appear. In this next clip, we see a scary moment when a group of tourists ran into what appeared to be a family of adult elephants spending a little quality time together. And as soon as the massive mammals caught these intruders, they sure were not pleased about it. Thanks to the skill of the driver, the tourists were able to get out of there before things went south. That'll surely teach them not to mess with an elephant anymore. Tiger trap. If you're ever on a safari trail, it's beyond important for you to keep your eyes alert at all times. At this point, I think it's safe to say that many of these big cats don't exactly play around when it comes to hunting and stealthily finding their prey. Check out this next scenario, where a tiger literally blindsided a group of tourists as they were moving through a trail. The crazy thing is that I kind of feel like that tiger would have been even more deadly if it hadn't roared while approaching the tourists. Fortunately, though, everyone was able to drive away from the area quickly enough. Buffalo mood switch. When it comes to animals that have insane levels of aggression, buffaloes definitely rank high on the list. With their massive horns and incredibly buff bodies, these guys are not to be messed with, and even when you feel like a buffalo's relaxed and unbothered, it can literally turn things around in a second. Take this for example. These tourists were on safari and stopped to take a few pictures of the buffaloes in their natural habitat. But things took a weird turn when one of the animals got too close and gave their car a body check. Even after the tour guide kicked the engine and began reversing, the buffalo just wouldn't let go. The tourists had managed to get themselves out of there, but I think you get my point. Buffaloes are not to be messed with at all. Rhino Detour. White rhinos are easily amongst the biggest and baddest rhinos of them all. With their massive size and incredibly long horns, these rhinos pack a punch and are definitely worthy to be feared. Even close encounters with them are enough to get your heart racing. In this next clip, we see a moment when some tourists apparently got a little too close to a family of white rhinos making their way across the safari ground. The rhinos were all set to just cross, but for some reason, the mother rhino decided to move the other way. Now, I'm not sure what she was looking for, but something tells me everyone in that car must have been scared to a level. No way, Jose. Elephants are really peculiar creatures. They're said to be amongst the most intelligent animals in the world, but at the same time, they can also be unreasonable brutes. Just check out this scenario where an elephant apparently became angry after seeing a few tourists trying to make their way into its territory. Fortunately for those tourists, they were able to get out of the car quickly enough before the elephant had mauled them.
Get on the car right now.
No one was hurt here, but that was definitely a close call. Too close for comfort. One of the reasons why lions are always to be feared is that even while being tamed, they can still do some serious damage. In this next clip, we see a moment when an obviously tamed lion still managed to wreak havoc as it was trying very hard to get into a tourist's car at the Kevin Richardson Wildlife Sanctuary in South Africa. Even after the tourists appeared to leave the area, the lion and his friends decided to give them a little chase. The tourists did manage to drive to safety, but something tells me their insurance would not be covering a lion attack scenario. Catty behavior. If you think of any cat, whether it's your little kitty at home or a massive cheetah, well, you immediately think of whiskers and claws. And when it comes to claws, let's just say that cats of all nature surely know how to use them. In this scenario, we see a tourist on safari in Botswana who comes into contact with a huge leopard and gets a bit of a parting gift.
Don't move. Don't move.
Now look, I hate being scratched and all, but when you consider that it could have bitten off the guy's leg instead, I think that a small scratch is a worthy trade-off. Elephant Deviant. When it comes to wild animals, predictability is the name of the game, and just when you think you have them figured out, they pull off some weird behavior that makes your heart want to leave your chest. In this next scenario, we see a group of tourists on safari watching as a group of elephants are making their way around them. Suddenly, one of the elephants breaks off from the group and then charges towards the tourists. Fortunately for the tourists, their guides were experienced enough to scare that elephant and get it back in line.
Oh.
No one got hurt here, and thank goodness for that. Dangerously close encounter. I'm not really sure if it's just me, but I really don't think I could ever feel comfortable knowing that a cheetah is this close to me.
Again.
This clip was taken at Kruger National Park, and according to the person who took it, the cheetah was not tamed. But my question is, if it decided to attack, Where would these guys even run to? This is a stick-up. You know, they say that we humans have evolved from apes, and if that's true, then it would mean that we're kind of distant relatives to monkeys and baboons. So why on earth would baboons want to steal from their own relatives? In this next clip, we see a group of tourists who were literally mugged by a set of baboons at Kenya's Lake Nakuru National Park. Now, I'm not really sure what the baboon took there, but something tells me this would be an experience that these ladies will never forget. Back off the kid. Speaking of apes that have no regard for their more evolved kin, we check out this moment when a monkey and her baby scared the daylights out of a safari tourist. Now, I know that this seems like a bit too much, but remember, the mummy monkey probably saw the tourist and felt threatened, and when it comes to their kids, monkeys really don't play around. The King's Chase. At the Serengeti National Park, these tourists got an incredible scare when they passed by a lion and it just wouldn't let go of their car. Looks like the lion saw one of the tourists and thought, yummy. Relentless hunters. You know that feeling when you want something so badly and you do everything you can to get it? Apparently these rhinos were dealing with that exact feeling, and it was interesting to see them chase down this tourist car.
There's a god coming behind him.
The rhinos even found an alternate track and continued their chase, and trust me, they were serious about getting their food. I'm not sure how the clip ends, but I sure hope that someone managed to feed those rhinos. With their stride, you could tell that they were desperately hungry. Tire for lunch. At this conservation area in Tanzania, a lion decided that it was feeding time, only it didn't seem to have a taste for human flesh.
Jesus Christ.
Could it be that the lion had eaten so much meat that it just wanted a taste of something else? Who really knows? With these clips, I think it's safe to say you should keep both eyes open when you next go on safari. But what do you think? Have you ever had a safari trip go south? Let me know all about it in the comments down below.